Friends, on behalf of Indian Classical Dancers Association, I would like to welcome you all to this lecture series of ICDA. And today we have one of the eminent veteran dancer, Ramya Harishankar, who is based in USA. And before I officially welcome her, I would like to say a few sentences about ICDA. Indian Classical Dancers Association had been active since the last 3 years, and we have 18,000 members now in our two Facebook pages and 1,600 members in the WhatsApp group. And in all cities in India, we have got a member, and every major country we have got a member. Our objective is to promote classical dancers and classical dances, and we try to link dancers so that they get all advices, help, and whatever assistance they need during the pandemic period and after the pandemic period. So we also try to find out new ways and means by which the artists could make money after the pandemic period and even on online programs. So we had been organizing several programs like competitions, festivals, then workshops, lecture demonstrations, surveys, and even we had been having discussions with all senior government officials to propose our ideas and also to have their views and to know about the projects of the state and central governments. So we would like to request those who are not members of the ICDA WhatsApp group to please give your numbers in the chat box so that you can be added in the ICDA global group so that you get all informations of what all festivals are happening all over the world, because many of our members are all good organizers too, and they are organizing various events at their places and are inviting our members to join them. So please give your mobile numbers in the chat box so that you can be added in the ICDA and be a part of the group. So today we have one of the eminent veteran dancer, Bharatanatyam dancer, Ramya Harishankar, who is based in California, USA. And I'm really happy that I'm associated with her for the last more than 40 years because she had been in the dance field since 40 years, and she had her performance during her initial days even at Cochin, and I was really fortunate to associate with her. So I'm really happy that I could invite her for this program, and on behalf of ICDA, may I welcome Ramya Harishankar to this program. And I would like to introduce our host, Lavanya Shivaram, who is our ICDA coordinator of the overseas chapter, and she is also based in USA. And may I request Lavanya Shivaram to officially introduce Ramya Harishankar.
Sure. Thank you. I welcome every one of you. Ramya Harishankar ma'am, a brief introduction about you. Ramya Harishankar brings to Bharatanatyam the qualities enhanced by vigorous training under the best gurus, late Shri Swami Malai K. Rajaratnam, who followed the traditional Vazhavur style and was renowned for his musical and choreography skills, and Kalanidhi Narayanan, who was one of the finest exponents and teachers of the art of Abhinaya, the art of expressing emotions. With over 2 decades of training, Ms. Harishankar combines the elegance, grace, and suppleness of Vazhavur school with a distinctive ability to express all shades of emotion with sensitivity and intuition. Ramyaka has served as a panelist at the National Endowment for Arts, California Arts Council, and World Arts West. She is also a founder/board member of Ekta Center, formerly known as Aparna Foundation, that has brought over 50 renowned Indian dancers, musicians, companies to Southern California audiences since 1989. In 1981, she was invited to perform at the prestigious Navaratri Mandapam in Trivandrum before the Maharani, the royal family, and other special invitees. In 1978, she was selected for Outstanding Young Dancer Series by Tamil Sangam, featured in the yearly series by Madras Music Academy, and was awarded the title Shingar Mani by Surshingar Samshad, Mumbai. The crowning event was a performance at the Rashtrapati Bhavan before the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, President Sanjeeva Reddy, and other foreign dignitaries. In 1972, she played Rati in her Guru's presentation of Kalidas's Kumara Sambhava that went to win Golden Trophy at Kalidas Samaroh in Ujjain. Her performing career, spanning over 2 decades, has taken her all over the world. The NEA, National Endowment for Arts, had earlier awarded her a prestigious Choreographer's Fellowship 1993 to 97 in recognition of her skills. In 2007, Ramya ma'am received the Helena Modeksha Cultural Legacy Award from Arts OC. In 2015 to 2016, Ramya again convened Dance Conversations 3, Dancing Communities, Dancing Cities, featuring dancers from Twin Valley College and ADC in a collaborative performance called Walking in Orange, and premiere of Sweating Saris, featuring the collaborators Dr. Priya Srinivasan and Harishankar. That it's a very lengthy bio that I have cut short, picked and chosen very few sentences because I want to hear more from Ramya ma'am than me talking. So over to you, Ramya ma'am.
Thank you, Lavanya. Actually, I had sent a shortened version to Gopakumar yesterday. But anyway, I'm glad you cut it short. Thank you, Lavanya, and thank you, Gopakumar, for inviting me to share whatever I have learned and I have shared with my students. I have been teaching in California since 1981. Soon I will be completing 40 years teaching. I may bring a different perspective because of my teaching in the diaspora. I don't know if there are any other participants here from the diaspora in various parts of the world. So I wanted to just briefly talk about my training. I started my original training in Delhi under K.N. Dakshinamurthy, who was the younger brother of the renowned Dandayathu Pillai. And then I moved to Chennai after 6 years of training in India, in Delhi, to Chennai, and I started lessons with Guru Swami Malai K. Rajaratnam. I want to say, actually, over the years, I've realized that he actually did not follow strictly the Varur style, in a sense. In this Vadyars, many of his disciples came from other teachers, learned from other teachers. And when they came to him, he didn't try to change or modify their style, but rather enhanced what they were doing. And he was basically a musician who came to sing for Ramya Pillai's disciples, who were very, very renowned and popular at that time in the 40s and 50s. So he was originally a singer who became a teacher and choreographer. So I always think his choreography is very melodic, musical, very supple and very lyrical and graceful. And that's what he looked for. And so long as the student brought that, he didn't try to modify and say, this adavu has to be done this way, so long as it looked pretty and attractive visually. And I think if any of you have seen, Vadyar was very fortunate to have so many good students of his who have gone on to become popular performers and teachers. that all of us dance a little bit differently, that we're all not clones of each other. And also that is a big advantage of not being a student of a dancer. Then you develop your own style. When you watch a dancer and learn, you tend to kind of copy them a little bit and become clones. So that is one of the advantages of learning from a guru who's not a dancer. These are all, like insights and aha moments that you get as you learn, and particularly this past year with through COVID, we've been able to see so many dancers across the world, have so many conversations. And so all of this would not have been possible. It's unfortunate that it had to happen this way, but there have been a lot of silver linings in terms of learning and expanding our world in the last year and a half, So I started learning from Kalanidhi Mami in 1975. And what did she bring to the world of Bharatanatyam? So the padams and javalis, which had been the very essence of the repertoire of the Devadasi community, right, had been removed from the repertoire during the nationalization and redesign of the form. And so it was taken out, and the repertoire became about bhakti rasam, kirtanams and kritis, which were included as a part of the performance of Bharatanatyam dancers. So Mami brought back the repertoire that had been removed from the form. So I think also we all learned from male gurus when we were 12 and 13. And I think it would have been really hard in those days, particularly, I'm talking 50 years ago, for them to teach young 12-year-olds these padams and javalis, because some of them were erotic and they couldn't really break it down and, peel it apart and unpack it and teach. So it would be much easier for a female guru like Mami to teach us young women. And in those days, in my generation, mostly they were women dancers. I don't know too many male dancers of my generation. There were before us and there's after us, but unfortunately, no, not many in my generation that I recall, So I came to, I was associated with Mami in her early days. She started teaching in 1973. I joined her in 1975. And by that time, I was a full-time dance student. So literally, we hung out with Mami all the time. Even though we had class for 1 hour, we probably spent 3 or 4 hours watching her teach other people, picking her brain. And she herself was formulating her ideas, her philosophy, her processes. So it was a very special time for us to be with her, and to share those moments, the process of creation of her style, so to speak. So I find, and as I said before, I have seen so much dance from all over the world in the last year and a half. And I find that overall, Nrita is amazing. Everybody is so clean, so perfect, athletic, speed, everything. But where there is a lack, according to me, is in in-depth Abhinaya, and being able to communicate in a very authentic and real way, and connect with what you're doing, and not just regurgitating, not just learning. You can't do that with any dance. That's what I believe, whether it's Nrita or Abhinaya. Particularly in Abhinaya, you cannot memorize and go throw it up on the stage. You have to own what you do. I hope I'm making myself clear. You have to become the character, right? If you're going to play Sita, I have to believe that you're Sita, So you cannot memorize and just throw it on the stage, So that's so important as a part of the learning how to get there. I always say there is a lot of head, a lot of thinking, analyzing when you learn, when you set your piece. But then when you get up on the stage and perform, it has to come from the heart, not from the head. You've got to not be thinking, you should just be and just feel that moment. If you're still thinking, that doesn't work for me, at least. So we all know, I mean, in general, what Abhinaya is, you know, it's much more than hand gestures. It's much more than expression. It's much more than the Navarasas. It's much more than everything. It's all of that and more, right? And the intention, as I said just now, is to be authentic, feel, understand, feel the Naika or whatever role you're playing, and communicating that effectively and authentically. And so that the audience feels that and can connect and respond to it in some way. That is the ultimate goal of Abhinaya. So, and so in fact, I feel that even Nritta has to have some amount of bhava. It can't be just done, you know, like an exercise or a, you know, there needs to be some amount of emotion in the execution of your movements, which is what brings grace and charm to the performance. So when I take up a piece, and I'm just going to just, I mean, we have very little time, so I'm just going to try to very quickly give you little pointers on how I break down a piece. And you know, I have been teaching for 40 years. I didn't want to teach, but I had no option when I came here, because it's not like we're going to get performances every week, every month, or I don't even know how. At that time, 40 years ago, it was a very small community. When I came to Southern California, I would say by default, I was one of the pioneers, because there was nobody teaching here. So when I came, there were families waiting for somebody to come and teach their daughters, young daughters. And so I started teaching, not because I wanted to, but because I had to, because that's the only way I would be connected with dance. Otherwise, I'd have to go work in the corporate world, and I didn't want to do that. So it kind of fell in my lap, so to speak. And so I had to figure out how to teach. I had never taught before, and also teach to a community where not all of them are from the South. You know, my students range from Kashmir to Sri Lanka, and you know, Bengal to Maharashtra, from every part of the country. And so how do you break down and make this available, right? So one of the things I insist on all my students doing is that, of course, in their whenever they do their Arangetram, which is about 8, 10, 12 years after they start, that they do a Padam or a Javali as a part of their Arangetram. They have to do items in at least 4 or 5 different languages. It cannot all be Tamil, it cannot all be Telugu. It has to have different languages, different ideas, different concepts and thoughts. Yes, I will do one piece for them in their mother tongue. If you're Marathi, we'll do a Marathi piece, or a Malayalam piece, or a, you know, Hindi, depending on where you're from. But the whole program cannot be in one language. And that way they get to listen and hear different languages. And even if they don't understand every word, I break it down for them so that they can understand. And I think it's good to expand your horizon and not just be stuck with one language or one kind of idea. So I like, it's also fun for me, you know, to explore different things. So when I teach something like that, when you take a piece, right, when it doesn't matter what language it is in. So the first question you have, most important thing for you to be able to bring that authenticity is to understand the concept of who, whom, what, when, where, why, right? The W's, as I call. So who is the protagonist? Who is the hero or the heroine of that piece? Who is that person talking to, right? About what? Where? Where is this conversation taking place? When is it taking place? It may be important, it may not be important, depends, right? From piece to piece, and why, okay? So we will take this piece, Swati Tirunal's piece, Chaliye, right? It's a Hindi bhajan where, so if you break it down from that perspective, who is Radha is talking to whom? Krishna, Shamahari. Chaliye kunjanamo tuma ham mil Shamahari are the words. So Radha is talking to Krishna about what? About meeting, about rendezvous, coming together, right? And when is, as, okay, I'll come to that in a minute, where in the Kunjan, which is in the garden, in the beautiful Vrindavan forest or gardens, right? And why and when, if you go through the whole piece, talks about Jamuna, Dekho Jamuna re bahi sundar ati neer bhari. The Jamuna is full, is overflowing with water. Suniye, koyal ki boli, listen to the words, to the singing of the birds. What are they saying? So when does the river overflow? When do the birds sing? It's spring. So that's how you figure out there is no reference to spring in the words. That's poetry, right? You have to infer from the words, oh, it's springtime. It's the season of romance. And so Radha is asking Krishna, hey, spring is in the air. Will you not come and be with me at this time, right? So, so let's just do, let me just do one or two interpretations to go on to the next concept, right? So, chaliye kunjanamo o tum, chaliye kunjanamo o tum, chaliye kunjanamo o tum, हम मिल श्याम हरि चलिए कुंजन ओ तुम हम मिल श्याम हरि, and so on. So so you understand it, that you have to understand the basics before you start working on a piece or learning a piece or teaching a piece, right? And so the next, I'm kind of rushing through all of it a little bit. So the next concept is to understand the sthai bhavam. What is the main emotion, the predominant emotion in this piece, right? I'm going to use the same piece, Chaliye. So it is romance. It's the season of romance. It's Sringhara. So you have to remember when you do it, that's kind of like this, like the yellow, even though there are little white flowers and there's a pink border, the yellow is the dominant color. So that has to keep showing up. So the Sringharam, everything you do in this whole piece from beginning to end has to be brushed with this strokes of Sringharam. You can never let go of it. So even when you do, Dekho Jamuna re bahi sundar. Dekho Jamuna re bahi sundar. Dekho Jamuna. So you can't go literal and go, Dekho Jamuna re bahi. No, Dekho Jamuna re bahi sundar, Dekho Jamuna re bahi sundar. So always that flirtation, that Sringharam should always be there from beginning to end. Even when you say Suni, it's not listen, it's like listen. So when we speak, if you say, listen to the cuckoo birds, but if you say it with Sringharam, listen to the cuckoo birds, oh Krishna, what are they saying? So that the way you speak, right? When you speak with Sringharam, that dialogue, it's the same concept in Abhinaya. You have to bring that softness, the flirtation, Yeah. So whatever the piece is, if the dominant emotion is anger, then you have to make sure, even though you weave other emotions, Mami's style and choreography and what I have made of it is that it's never one color. You know, it's like a tapestry. And I hope you understand what I mean. In India, we never have anything in one color. It's always woven with, everything is very intricate, so it's the same thing in Abhinayam. So the dominant emotion may be Raudram or anger, like for instance, a woman who's betrayed by her lover, Khandita Naika. But it can't be just anger. Yeah, it could be annoyance, it could be irritation, it could be disgust, it could be jealousy, it could be sarcasm, making fun, taunting, ignoring. So there are so many emotions that can be woven into that piece. Even though the main string is anger, there are other things that are woven in. But of course, you have to do it thoughtfully and meaningfully. You can't just throw anything that you want. It has to make sense. All of them have to remember, the most important thing is to communicate and communicate authentically. So whatever tools you need and whatever methods and processes you need to use to be able to do that, you have to do that. Right? So should we just go on, Lavanya, or allow questions at any point, or should I just finish my whole presentation?
Ma'am, I would like you to present your...
Okay. So then another thing that I do, which I think, and I've been teaching a lot of Abhinayam, online this past year. And so I've realized more and more, I do it all the time. And I found that it's so important, is the concept of developing a monologue, or what we call a subtext, right? So I'm going to take a piece and show you how that can be done. That will be easier. So this is Abhisarika Naika, a woman who is very brave and bold and brazen, and she's not afraid to express herself. And she is the butt of gossip in the town. And she says, I don't care about all of these people, right? So, okay, let me first do it and then I will speak it, okay? Yare kahilu bhayama, yare kahilu bhayama, chumma sollatum, yare kahilu bhayama, chumma sollatum, yare kahilu bhayama, chumma sollatum, idilenna rahasiyama, yare kahilu bhayama, chumma sollatum, idilenna rahasiyama, yare kahilu bhayama, chumma sollatum, idilenna rahasiyama. So it's the same Pallavi that's repeated in so many different ways, right? So yare kahilum bhayama. Should I be afraid of anybody? Chumma sollatum, let them say what they want. Idil, is this a secret? Is this something to be hidden? This is her relationship with the Nayaka, whoever, there is no mention of who it is in this particular padam. So my conversation that I would develop as I prepare for each piece for me is like doing a project or a thesis, right? You've got to work on it, understand it deeply, and personalize it. So of all these people, should I be afraid of these people? Concerned? Why should I be? Of all of them, afraid? I'm not. Come here. What? Crazy woman. Everybody will say what they want. Why do I care? Of my mother and father, concerned, I should be, but I'm not. They will advise me, but is this a matter to be hidden? My friends, oh, they're crazy. They will talk, but I have nothing to hide. My neighbors, should I hide from them? I'm not going to. I'm free and brave. So if you can imagine, right, you can speak the whole item that you do, you have to be able to speak. And why is the subtext important is what is going on in your head is getting communicated through your eyes, which are the most important part of your body in Abhinaya, right? So Mami used to always say, right, as you improve the quality of your Abhinayam, cut down the hands, do fewer hands, speak with your eyes. So the eyes become the voice. And so the voice, what are you saying through your voice, right, is very important. And the other important thing, very important thing in Abhinayam is this subtext is your mirror. You cannot practice Abhinayam in front of a mirror. If you're looking at the mirror to see if you're doing it right, you're not doing it. You're seeing, you have to become the audience. You can't be the audience, you have to be the dancer. So it's important for you to look within you to see if you're communicating. So when if I have the right tone in my voice, as I said in, Suniye Koyaliki, the right tone, of all these people, afraid, should I be? It's kind of like disdain, like, why should I be afraid? Of my parents, with little respect, I know I should be scared, but I'm not. They'll say, but I'm going to do what I want to do. So the tone, right, how you speak, that's how you bring variety and spice, like masala. It can't be just one tone or one, you add the masala to what you do and make it more interesting and more intriguing. So I would suggest that that is the most important part, is to develop and say it like if you were in a play, right? Say the dialogue and see if it connects. So that would take us to the next point, which is beginning, middle, end, right? You have like a story. You have to introduce the characters, introduce the concept, develop the story, and have a conclusion, right, at the end. So it has to connect from beginning to end. You cannot just be all over the place. It has to be tied together, and when you package it nicely, put a nice bow and present it to the audience. It's very important to do that. And one of the ways to check that beginning, middle, and end is through subtexting. If you can speak out the whole piece, then you'll know whether you're, like I'm doing right now, whether what I'm trying to say has a beginning, middle, and end, and I'm saying it effectively. So it's a test, right, in a way. So it's very important to do that. How much time do we have, Lavanya, so I can figure out how much I should demonstrate?
Ma'am, please go on, ma'am. We are, I think, not even in the beginning. So we are-
Okay, so I'm going to share with you a piece that I have been working on with my students. I hadn't actually learned this from Amami, but I actually am using I'm very familiar with some of these pieces because I have seen Mami teach it to others, or I've seen Mami students perform it. So I've been working in the and using the process of teaching and what I call deconstruct and reconstruct, right? So in the process of setting it for myself. So hopefully I'll be able to do it effectively. Let me see if I can get up and do it. Maybe that's a better idea. So you understand, I'm not going to talk in detail about the gait and the stance and the posture, but it kind of, that also adds, we don't have enough time to go into that. That's a whole different field. But hopefully, you know. So this piece is one of the rare pieces where the woman who has been sent with a message to Muruga, right, the protagonist, possibly Devyani, has sent the message, and she comes back in disarray. Her hair is all loose and her bindi is smeared and her eyes look puffy, and so she gets kind of suspicious. What happened, my dear? So this is that's the idea of this basic padam. So oh, hold on, let me find the piece. Sorry. Were you able to hear the music?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Hold on, let me start. So I hope in some little way that it demonstrated having the middle, beginning, middle, and end to a piece and connecting it all from beginning to end. So the last point that I'd like to share with you today, this morning for me, is about musicality and rhythm. It's very, very important. I can sing enough to teach and enough for me to understand the music of it. It's so important. And one of the ways, see, we grew up at a time when we didn't have recordings. Nobody gave us my vadyar. There was no recording device. Yeah, for some of you, it might be like, which era were you in the Middle Ages? Yes, it was. And you know, if we took a tape recorder to my vadyars, he would just send us home. He'd say, go find somebody else, you know. So we couldn't, we didn't have any recording devices. So I think in a way, when we learned our pieces, we had to be able to think on our feet. In the sense, when we perform, it's no guarantee, even though we practice and practice with the musicians, sometimes they'll sing one extra, sometimes they'll sing one less, sometimes they'll, you know, flip. So you have to know the piece so well so you can respond in the moment. You can't say, well, I told you to sing 4 times, why did you sing 5 times? It happens, right? So because we didn't dance with recorded music, we didn't practice with recorded music. So that is one part of it, but also the importance to know the music, right? You should know, okay, if they finish here, there is going to be 3 Mishra Chapus before they can conclude the piece and go to the next line, right? So that if the ragam is here, it's going to take him that long, him or her, the singer, to come to the next, to the samam, to the next verse. So you have to have that sensitivity and ability so that even when you set the piece, you know what to set in those moments. You can't kind of say, okay, I'm done with the kayyu, so I'm just going to wait for him to finish, right? Can't have dead spaces. So that's so important to understand. Also the rhythm. I was going to say something about musicality. Also, one of the things you can do if you have recording, and I tell my students, even the little ones, is even when you're doing your homework, even when you're, you know, cooking or whatever, play the music and just keep listening, and let it get into your veins and into your body so that you have sensitivity and understanding. At least the pieces that you do, you should know that. You have to know that before you can get up on the stage and perform, you know. And also the talam, right? For instance, in Javalis particularly, and you can use the talam to enhance your performance. Little demonstration. I do this Javali Muttavadura, right? Muttavadura is a Khandita Naika where she says, don't touch me, right? Oh, Mohananga Nannipudu. Mohananga literally means, Mohana means attractive, Anga means the body, which means you're handsome. Nannipudu, Nan is me, Ippudu at this time. But obviously she's not in a mood to praise and say, oh, you're handsome. She's saying it with a sarcasm, you know, like, oh, you may be Mr. Universe, but don't touch me, okay? Just stay away. So when you sing the song, Muttavadhura Mohananga Nanni. So if you can use that, so when you do Muttavadhura, 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 on that ra, you have to emphasize that. So when you do that with that emphasis on the ra, it looks different than if you just do it. I don't even know if I can demonstrate how to do it wrong because I've worked on it for so many years and tried to set it. So I don't think I can demonstrate to you how to do but then it's not wrong at times, but then it makes a difference when you do it. You know, so a lot of things when people do it, we don't know why it looks good. They're like, it looked really good. I don't know why, but when they don't do it, when somebody doesn't do it, then you think, there's something missing, something wrong, right? So these are the little nuances that make a difference to your performance. Of course, I was going to say with regard to musicality, always start your Abhinayam after the word, right? After he starts singing, he or she. I've always had male singers. In my earlier years, it's all my aunts or all female, and now more recently more male. So I keep saying he. Always, I feel like the Abhinayam is like a shadow or an echo to the words. It should come afterwards. So when you do Yare kahinu bhayama, Yare kahinu bhayama. So it follows the word like a shadow or an echo. It never sits on the word. That is the difference between mature Abhinayam, which is understood and done, and just regurgitating word to word. I call it ABCD Abhinayam, where you're just interpreting word to word to word. That's not Mami's style, and that's not the way I have learned or I have performed. So this is kind of like my brief introduction to what I do. And of course, there are several layers, and you cannot learn any style of processes of forms by learning one piece or 10 pieces, right? It's a process. So you learn many, many, many pieces to kind of figure out, just like in geometry, you have to do many theorems to kind of understand the formula, right? It's the same thing. I cannot teach you, or anybody, can teach you a piece and make you a master of anything. So you have to keep working. You have to keep working on it. And then maybe after you learn 15 padams, you can do one padam properly, and every time we do a new padam, even now, after all these years, we have to sit and work at it and do all of these elements. We have to work on each section of it and understand. So every piece we do is like a project. You can't just say, okay, I know I can do this perfectly. That doesn't mean you can do something else perfectly. Each time you have to work on it, and nothing, there is no instantaneous way of doing it. And that's all I have to share today. So thank you to Lavanya and Gopakumar for inviting me. I'll be happy to answer any questions or any ideas or thoughts from any. Can we see everybody, Lavanya?
Sure.
So I can see all the faces. I hope it had some value.
Of course.
whatever I have developed as a way to teach, It
was a very beautiful presentation, Ramya. We just transported back in time.
Thank you so much for being here, Jayanti. That's really, really special. We were all with Mami at the same time,
Yes.
and it's a very special time because Mami was just, creating her philosophy and processes, and some of the, and of course she did evolve and develop it over the years, but I don't know. Because I left in 1981, I left India, but I did stay in touch with her. She would come and teach here. Every time I went to India, I would go to class with her. But some of the things that she said in those days, I still keep. I don't change that. I just feel like, I don't know why she changed it, but I feel like they were precious, and I don't change those formulas and ideas that she had in those days,
I think we got the best of Mami.
Absolutely. And also we had one-on-one at that time. She was not teaching through. And in my conversations recently with others, I found out, I thought I was the only one hanging out with Mami after my class. And I found out everybody was doing the same. After 40 years, I said, oh, everybody was doing the same. So that was special.
Ramya, I had a question for you. How do you really teach the children in the US these padams and javalis? Because they are very, they belong to a particular period of time and a particular type of society. So how do you make them relate to it?
I think, in fact, padams and javalis, I feel are more universal and timeless, because every woman or man, in the world, whether you're Korean, whether you're French, whether you're whoever, South African, we all have love, we all have disappointments, we all have heartbreaks, we all have anger. These emotions are not exclusive to any one society or any one time, It's not as if today, 400 years ago, we might have Khandita Naika, but doesn't mean today we don't have Khandita Naikas, and we don't have Vipralabdha or Virhot Khandita Naikas or betrayal or in fact, maybe more. I think it's very universal. So I remember Mami also saying, she won't say Krishna or she'll say, Ni Harishan enchuko, how would you feel? She'll say, like, think about, your spouse or your beloved and how you'd feel if he did something, things like that. So make it real, And I remember when my students would say, oh, but I'm not a mother, so I don't know how to think of, like, if you're doing a piece about baby Krishna. I said, some of you all have puppy dogs and you know how you pet your puppy dogs and you're like treating them like your little baby. I said, so think of Krishna as the little puppy dog and relate to it, And to me, it's always like, connect to something in your life. We've all experienced joy, sorrow, disappointment, anger. So like, I tell them, okay, when you go to Disneyland, how do you feel? We feel so happy and excited. So if you're doing a piece that requires you to be happy and excited, put yourself in Disneyland, and think, what do I feel? How do I feel? So it's like you create the scenarios around yourself to make it real for you. That's how I look at it, So that's where it becomes authentic, when you can, like awe, right? It's not, you can go 100 times to Grand Canyon. Every time you walk up to it, your jaw will drop. You'll be like, oh my God, I cannot believe this such a thing exists, right? So it's like you relate to things in your life when you were happy or whatever emotion you need to evoke, right? So I feel like you have to, all of the emotions are there. It's not like you don't suddenly, it's not like it's injected into your body. It's there, but you just need to access it. You should know how to access it and be real with it. And try not to do it. I said, don't do Abhinaya, be Abhinaya. Be the part, don't do it, Yeah. It's a little bit different here compared to India, but ultimately, if you can break it down for them, peel it, and give it to them, they can connect, they can connect at some point.
Namaskaram, Akka. I have a question.
Yes.
This is Manjula Amresh from Bangalore. Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
I hope you remember me. We met in Mami's
birthday.
Reminder day. Yes, Remembrance Day. Yes. So, Akka, my question is, how do you introduce, what are the first padams that one can teach just if they have just finished Varnam, or if they've just finished the first Varnam, or if they've just finished Jati Swaram, like 12, 13-year-old children. How do you, what are the padams you think, other than Tamil, because I know Tamil, but not very well versed, but in Telugu, can you suggest any Telugu padams or the javalis for a 12, 13-year-old
it
children?
depends entirely on the child, the child, the maturity, the also the Abhinaya. Some kids are drama queens and they're really good. You can teach them anything and they'll, some kids, it takes years to, but whatever I teach, I use the same formula, even for Bhakti Rasam, even for Kritis, I use the same formula. They have to emote, they have to understand, it has to be deeper. It's not just interpreting, Kavawa, Kandavawa, you have to do Kavawa in 5 different ways. How can you say it? You can't just do same hand twice. It doesn't work. That's not the formula I use anymore. So of course it's hard. Lot of Papanasham Shivan's compositions are easy to teach, or Uttakada. They're all perfect for the younger ones. Telugu, there are some, like Annamacharyas that you can, like Bhave Amira, Gopala Balan, what else? Alarulu Guriyaga. They're all not necessarily Sringara Padams, but those Annamacharyas, some compositions, and I've also taught Bhadrachala Ramdas some compositions. I had a student from Bhadrachalam, so they had requested. Om Namo Narayana, some pieces like that, which can also incorporate Navarasam, not Navarasam, sorry, Dashavatam, or stories from, some Dashavatam aspects are introduced in those pieces. So, I would say Annamacharya, and Annamacharya has a whole range, right? The super erotic pieces to more descriptive, like Mudugare Yashoda. Mudugare is not easy to do. It's a little bit, it's quite a challenge to do, to bring all the different, but it's also interesting. You can include the stories of Krishna, right? With the gems for Mudugare. Of course, a lot of Purandaradasa, you probably know that, that can be adapted to younger students. I like my students, if they can get ready, it's a lot of work for me, but if they can get ready around 14 and 15 for an Arangetram, if they are interested, I don't insist, but only because then it gives them, here in the US, most of them leave home for college. They go out of state, go somewhere else. They never go to college from home. So pretty much when they graduate from high school, that's Janagana Mana. That's kind of the end of their journey. Most 90%, I would say. So I like them to have their Arangetram in their 8th or 9th grade. So they still have another 4 years, because I really believe the learning starts post Arangetram. Really their brain, all that work that they've put in for a year and a half to 2, it kind of suddenly expands their brain and understanding of what is expected of them, though that keeps happening all through your life. It's happening for me even now, but I'm saying that, so that they have the 4 years post Arangetram to grow and to have deeper roots in the form. So even if they don't perform, they can appreciate dance better, right? Because they have a better understanding. So I like that. I don't want them to do their Arangetram and next month leave for college, then that's the end. In about a year, they won't even know what Alaripu is, so that I like to do that. It doesn't happen all the time, but it depends. So did I answer your question? So I think, yeah, check out those two. I'm sure there are others too. But with Mami, we didn't do a lot of those kind of padams, no, Jayanti? We did mostly Sringhara padams or that kind of things. We did some, like I did Maya Mori in Hindi. You can also check, Surdas, some Meera bhajans and stuff. That is good for young kids. Yeah.
What about Shringaram Padam, Saka? How would you introduce
Oh, I have some drama queens. I even taught Indendu Vachiti Rano. She did so well, you know. She was like 15. She was really drama queen and she really brought it. So some are less like hardcore Shringharam and it's not so erotic. You can do that, you know. Some like Ini Enna Pechu Irukku poem in Tamil. Some Swati Tirunal too, you know, Valaputala Vasama, Chaliye, like I did. I mean, Chaliye is a little bit difficult. Yeah, some, you know, there are lots of actually Swati Tirunal, right? In Kantanodu, Shellumelle, in Nilambari, and then Shuruti, what is that? Alasara Paritapam, Taruninyan. All those, they're a little bit less erotic and little bit not that hardcore Shringharam. You can teach the young kids that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Akka. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, actually, there is a following question. Sorry, Sashireka ma'am. Like in this line, one person has asked whether there are any Marathi Javalis.
I personally don't know any. But I think Javalis, and Jayanti can answer that too. Javalis are mostly Telugu. Yeah.
There are some Tamil and Kannada Javalis also.
Yeah. Idene Sakhi in Kannada. Yeah. But mostly 90%, I would say, or more in Telugu. But one time for one of my Marathi students, I taught a kind of a Khandita Naika, but it was a song from an opera, from a Marathi opera. We had just taken that song out of the thing, and the mother of my student had taken it out and given it to me to choreograph, because she said, oh, this has that kind of Khandita Naika flavor to it, you know. But it was from a play and I don't recall it. It's like literally 10 years ago this month. So it's been a while. Yeah.
Over to you, Shashireka ma'am.
Namaskar, Akka. Sashireka Ramohan here.
Namaskaram. So nice to see you.
Yeah, enjoyed your session thoroughly. I have a request. Can you demonstrate a shlokam or a viritam?
You know, okay. My student is texting me that Marathi is nahi mi bolat. So I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to, that's the Marathi piece that we did.
Okay, thank you.
Shlokam. Oh, so let me try if I remember. I haven't done one in a bit. But you know, I had done a little, I wouldn't say shlokam. I had done a piece on climate change, a short piece in May. And for the inspiration for that, I took from the shlokam Urumuham Shalital, you know, where, you know, is you refer to Muruga, you talk to Muruga and say, even if one face of yours you know, is indifferent to me, is there not another face that will look at me with compassion, right? So I had used that piece as an inspiration for, I didn't use the song, and you can go on YouTube, it's there available, it's called Bhumika. And what I did was I looked at it as the earth, Bhumika talking to us. And saying, even if one person is indifferent to me, is there not anybody in this world that will take care of me, right? Even if somebody abuses me, will there not be somebody who will embrace me? So instead of the Bhakta talking to Muruga, it was Bhumika talking to us, the human beings. So I flipped it, but I didn't use the words. I just used the ideas and concept and came up with a presentation. It's a short one, but also last year for Navaratri, let me see if I can find the music. I haven't done it in a long time. I'll try to do it. I had done this 2-minute Navarasa for, you know, for Navaratri. they had a series every day. They had a different artist. And I did this Shive Shringaradra just in 2 minutes, each line once. But I can just show a little bit because I haven't even listened to it in a long time. I'm going to sit down and do it. Sorry, this is a recording for my class. So just a little demonstration of, now this is Harishankar from Soundarya Lahari.
Yeah, thank you, Akka. But paadile nirthite.
I think we'll be running out of time. Full up. It's about 10 minutes long. So I should have chosen this. I don't know why I didn't choose this to demonstrate. Another time, Shashi. Any other questions or?
Yeah, it's not a question, but just a comment.
Yes,
because in today's day and age, we find so many dancers doing word-to-word, delineation of especially shlokas and viritams, and not going even a layer further. So it was so nice to see how you could bring in different layers, and in between those layers also in that one little line. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I've known Srilata too for many, many, many years, and I've hosted her here. So it's so nice to have you here.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say. As I was doing the shlokam, I was thinking the musicality is so important because there's the rhythm is latent, right? It's not apparent. So if you don't know how long that he's going to stretch the phrase till he can go to the next one, you will be like, and you'll be like one dead space there in between, right? And also, so that becomes, and that's why I was thinking, why didn't I choose this to do X? And that's so clearly apparent in a shlokam, right? So thanks for asking me, Shashi. And the other thing is also you see the flow, how you connect, you know. And I've, in this teaching, now that I'm teaching older students, like senior adults and teachers and stuff, I've discovered another thing which I'm just enjoying so much is like sunrise and sunshade. So when you're like, for instance, and I'm sharing because all of you are dancers, like when you're looking for her, waiting for the Sakhi to come back, and you're all excited, you're like, oh my God, and I don't know what message she's going to bring. And then you're getting a bit anxious. Why hasn't she come? And then you're excited when you catch a glimpse of her coming down the street, and you're excited, like, come. And then you see her, and then she's like in disarray, and you're like, oh my God, you know, somebody attacked her, or what happened? And then you're concerned, you bring her close to you, and then you smell his perfume on her, and then you're like, you better stay away, my dear. So this whole array of emotions, right? From anticipation to you know, all of those. So I feel like that is such a beautiful, just for the sake of exploration, right? To bring that like a rainbow of emotions and build. And so that Adala, you know, you have to work on it. It takes many years, and everybody wants to do it yesterday, and it's hard. It's not something that you can learn. You can't like drink it and throw it up, right? It has to assimilate in your body and be in your veins. And adu kuda performance to performance, it will vary depending on where you are in that particular day. Urnan, it will be really good, and another day you won't be able to grab it. You'll be like, oh, I'm not able to get hold of that emotion or that thing, you know, if your focus is not there. So yeah, so there's so many challenges. Thanks, Srilata.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation.
My pleasure.
Namaste, ma'am. Namaste, ma'am. I'm Beena from Ernakulam. We had been interacting in between.
Yes,
Beena from Ernakulam.
Yes, nice to see you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah, thank you so much that we could attend one more class session of yours. I think the younger ones will have a very nice experience. It's not easy to be a dancer or
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
I think it's important for a serious, good, wanting to be a good dancer to understand what there is to learn, right? If you don't even understand what there is to learn, then you think whatever you're doing is good and everybody should like it. But it doesn't work like that.
It was a wonderful experience.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Ma'am, one basic question. Like when we teach children, initially when we teach, we give so much of emphasis on the hand mudras. Keep the mudra this way, keep the mudra that way, and elbow up, shoulder down, all those things we say. And then when we come to Abhinaya, the focus exactly shifts, right? So how do we, like, is there any transformation path that you take?
The hastas and mudras have to be clean, come what may. That is across the board. It doesn't matter what, right? The important thing, and I said before, for me, even Rita has to have bhava, you know? And initially you're emphasizing, okay, the lines, you know, keep your hastas clean, keep your lines, you know, or sit in proper aramandi, correct your posture, you know, tuck your booties in, don't stick it out, you know, and things like that. But afterwards, as they mature, and if they're starting the process, even before they start learning for working on their arangetram, is to bring more bhavam, right? I just tell them, if you did, and I know that I'm not directly answering your question, but if you did takita, takita. But if you did takita, takita, and if you just bring that softness to the eye, follow that layer, right? It makes it look so sweet and pleasant. And so I tell them, enjoy, savor that movement, right? Just like you put a spoon of ice cream in your mouth and you like in your tongue and you savor it rather than swallow it. So do your movements like that, like you savor and love, give every movement of yours the love that it deserves. And that love will bring joy to whoever's watching, right? That's the point. We're not dancing for ourselves in a way. We are dancing in front of people. When we do, when we teach the little kids Mushika Vahana, it's like unpacking, it's like storytelling, right? Mushika Vahana. So you who are sitting on a rat, right? Or a mouse, right? Mohan, so you tell them the story and tell them, okay, you're telling me the story, you're telling me that story. So look at me, point, focus. I mean, some things have to be very physically told, like focus in one spot. That's if Ganesha is there, he's right there in front of him. If you talk to him, don't let your eyes wander here and there, right? So like things like that. Some things are physical, some things like I told you, like when you like think of your puppy dog. If you say, I don't have a baby, I don't know how to feel. So no, you don't need for a baby. You teach your puppy dog like a baby, right? Even though they may be 9 years old, they'll mother the puppy dog, so little puppy. So I said, just imagine that. Imagine how you feel when you look at your dog or your little puppy or your stuffed animal. We have, all of us have all these emotions in us. We just have to give them ideas to think about it. Like, oh, I could do that, So it's a matter of, I mean, of course, some kids are naturally dramatic and they can do all these things. Some kids, you have to like konjam poke, pani, you have to bring it out in them. But, it is what it is. As a teacher, you have to give them ideas and unpack as much as you can, like break it down as much as you can so that they can understand and connect it to things, experiences in their life that they can relate to, then they can kind of connect.
I have a small question, not a question though.
Hi,
just my
Badri. How are you?
Hello, Ramya ji. Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
The question I have is, I always have been experimenting with Abhinaya and all. Of course, this little context or off context probably. When we do the Padavarnams and all, no, like the first Trikala Jati is okay because you enter and then you do the Trikala Jati. Later on in the Jatis, I feel there should be I personally, when I'm choreographing, I have been practicing this, that I add ounce of Abhinaya to the Jati. In the Jati pattern, in the Nritta pattern itself, I add Abhinaya because so that becomes the connecting segment between the previous Abhinayam she would have done and the next Abhinaya piece that she will be entering. Because suppose you're getting the Nayaka and putting him on the bed and saying, and suddenly it's like, that somehow I feel is little distracting. So, you would say that, and suddenly you say, you're actually screaming at the Nayaka. So, my methodology, so off late, initially when I was a student, we were taught to do only that, Then when I started choreographing, I said, it's nice when we add Abhinaya to Nritta. But exam point of view, in Arangetrams, when we are our own boss, like probably when we are showcasing our work, it's easy to convince the audience or the authentic classicists who say, no, but in your opinion, what do you think? Is it okay? Or do you think, no,
I don't know. One has to see it to see if it makes sense. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't say one way or the other, but I have to say this. Once we started learning from Mami, actually Vadyar had also would say, for the Varnams, he wouldn't teach us the Abhinaya part. He would say, Mami kitta kattuko. He will just wash his hands off and say, Anga poi kattuko. So, but Mami will say, And actually, after being introduced to Mami's philosophy, it was very hard for me to do the Abhinayam the old school way, you know, in the sense, oru kaiye front and side, and then in second kaiye front and this side, and then, you know, that 4 kaiyes 4 times, 2 times each, so, you know, 8 repetitions, that kind of thing, I just could not do it at all. So I re-choreographed all my varnams that I had learned for years with Vadyar in the new style and new philosophy. Having said that, I mean, I know all of us do, like we introduce the motifs. If it's a Krishna Varnam, we introduce the motives of Krishna or Muruga or Shiva in the jatis, right? Incorporate those elements that everybody does. So one of the things that I do, and I also teach my students, particularly, I mean, everybody, that the Varnam is one story, right? From beginning to end, like beginning, middle, end, right? Just like a Padam, it's just a longer version. And then it's interrupted by jatis. So how do you, like what you said, how do you make it relevant? Because suddenly this woman is in pain, and then suddenly you're doing this jati. So one of the things I find weird is that somehow when you do nritta, you have to smile. You don't have to smile like that, you know. If it's a sad Varnam and she's in pain and separation, pain, it doesn't make suddenly to be smiling wide in a jati. You know, you got to tone down the expression in a jati. But what I do, I don't know really how to incorporate the elements of the Abhinayam in the Varnam, which I don't think I have done. But what I tell them is, you know, after the 30 meter, in Varur style, we have 30 meter for every line. We do 30 meter at the end of every sequence. So after the 30 meter, when you go back, slowly, whatever the expression, whatever the emotion is, I shouldn't say expression, emotion is, slowly you fade out of it, right? And then you do the jati. And then when you do the aradhi, and then you walk back, you reconnect and connect to where you left off. And then you connect to, and then bring it to fruition. So it's almost like the Abhinayam like fades and fade in, fade out, fade in, fade out, fade in, fade out. So the storyline and the continuity of thought and expression and emotion doesn't go away. Even though it's interrupted by jatis. And the jatis are executed not with a bright smile, depending, of course, on each. If it's a Dashavataram Varnam, it doesn't matter really. But if it's something else, you know, if it's like a regular Padavarnam or something, then you do an expression or emotion, a being, a demeanor that is appropriate, right, to that particular piece. Yeah, but even Mami would even say, like, that is another thing, and I don't know, maybe it's not happening nowadays, but every time there was a reference to say Krishna or Shiva in a piece, right? Smile panna arambichidua. Even though you're sad, you know, for instance, I can't think of anything in particular, but if you say my heart is broken and I'm suffering the pangs of separation, oh Krishna, it's so irrelevant, right? So when you even referring to him, even if you're not talking to him, it's with that pain. Like I talked about Sthai Bhavam, that Sthai Bhavam has to be maintained. So even when you're saying, oh, I miss Krishna, that Krishna, the pain cannot go away. Suddenly you can't be smiling and being charming Krishna. It's not relevant to the piece, right? So that those kind of concepts, you know, Mami had already brought in. And don't go and stand in a pose and stuff like that when you're referring or talking. Do what is relevant to the emotion and the Sai Bhavam of the piece. Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I've been trying to do, because with the Nritta, I try to weave Abhinaya so that it is Nritta, and then still you're still in the mood of the song, or the Naika is feeling the same thing that she will. That is what, especially during the Kandita Naika, if she's screaming at him and all of a sudden, or you put him on the couch, you're about to get him something in the next stanza, and then you suddenly say, Talang, what is he sitting there on the couch for? So these kind of thoughts, I just wanted to gather your thoughts on this. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Namaste, Akka. With your permission, may I add on? When I started
Who's talking to me?
researching, I'm Sashireka here.
Oh, okay. Oh, there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I had the same question during my research, like, why jatis are there in the Varnam? And, the same question as he asked, I got a majority answer that, they are becoming the narrator and then again going into the Nayika, like how you said, how you connect when you walk back.
Yeah.
So they said you should have that capacity to become the narrator and again go back to the Nayika, what
It's
you're
not
portraying.
easy. It's not easy.
It is not easy.
It's not easy. And also to keep the consistency. That's what I would tell young kids, who are learning 13, 14, they think each section is separate, right? I tell them, no, it's all the same story from beginning. You have a beginning, you have a middle, and you have a conclusion at the end. So you cannot disconnect it. You have to string it like a garland, right? Though there are interruptions with the jatis, you still have to connect them all, and it has to make sense at the end. What you said, why you said it, all that has to make sense. Yeah. It's a lifelong study. To do it and then to teach it is another whole dimension. To be able to convey it and get them to do it is another whole different dimension. Great. So is that it? Is there anybody else?
So may I ask just one last question?
Yes.
When you teach a kid Abhinaya for the first time, obviously the kid feels shy, and instead of showing anger, she looks at you and smiles. It's very natural, right? So how do you tackle such situations? And she has to look at you and she has to show anger. How?
Yeah, it is repetition. Again, suggestion, right? Like you say, okay, what makes you angry? Does your brother make you, annoy you and make you really mad? So think, if your brother was there, how would you respond, right? Because for me, I think it's an advantage because you don't have anybody's face you're looking into. So whoever you're expressing it to, you can imagine whoever you want it to be in front of you, right? It's not like theater where we have whoever is playing the other role is standing in front of you and staring at you. So for me, I like that, the fact that I don't have to stare into somebody's face. But then you have to have imagination, right? When they're kids, they have to have the imagination to say, okay, think your brother is there and be angry with him, or, express whatever emotion, whoever annoys you, it may be your mom who bothers you, whatever, so you have to keep kindling that emotion and keep suggesting ideas, different thoughts. Even though these are traditional padams and javlis, you've got to modernize it in the way of making it relevant to them today where they are, right? I cannot sit in California and expect that the child sitting in Tanjore will have the same, connections or understanding of it. So you have to talk to them in a manner. That's why when I tell them, hey, see how you feel when you go to Disneyland, or so when I know them and I know their lifestyle, their life background, it becomes that much easier to break it down and make it relevant to them. But otherwise, if somebody is talking from another place, they can't understand. They may not know what is the community and social setup in which these children are being raised, to be able to make it relevant, Yeah. Just repetition, and practice. That's the name of the game.
Sure. Anybody has any more questions?
Akka, I have one more question. I have learned a few Ashtapadis from Kalanidhi Mami, but I would like to know your point of view. Manjula again.
Can I see you?
Yeah, I'm there. My
Can you
video
make
is
it
on.
gallery view, Lavanya?
Sure. Can you see it now?
Akka, here I am. Can you see me?
Yeah. Hi. Yes.
Yeah, I would just like to know, I have learned a few Ashtapadis from Mami, been very fortunate. But I would like to know your approach to Ashtapadi and how would you go about it? Is it the Padam approach to Ashtapadi, or is there a different approach to it?
Basically, the processes are the same. The only difference, I think, for me personally, I like Ashtapatis in Hindustani ragams. I don't like them in Carnatic archa stuff. I like that, particularly, how they sing in Odissi. I love the way they sing Ashtapatis for Odissi, or the lighter Hindustani ragas. So obviously your body language and the way you move will change for that kind of music as against Carnatic music, right? So that the music, anytime music informs the way your body moves, other than the emotion and the naika and situation, etc. So I haven't taught a whole lot of Ashtapatis. One of my favorites is Sakhi Hai that I do a lot. And I have learned from Mami, I learned Pashyati Dishi Dishi and one more, but I've never performed it. And I have taught one of my students, what's that male Krishna's Ashtapati? Mami Amchalita. Mami
yes.
Amchalita. Yeah, I've taught that one to one of my girls. She was really tall, 5'9". So I thought, oh, she could do that and bring some authenticity to it. But I haven't taught a whole lot of padams. Any Abhinaya Mami style, and since you've learned, you probably are aware, that musicality has to be there, and Ashtapadi has a different, I feel like, a musicality to it, because it's kind of very like that, So I feel that when you do padams, there is a way you move. When you do javalis, there's a way you move. And then when you do ashtapatis, there's another way you move. So nobody stays with me that long. I mean, now, fortunately, I have a few, but many, many years of learning and learning many, many pieces, diverse things to build that understanding and the nuances and how to own it, right? Whatever I teach, ultimately this student has to make something of it. It's true with Mami too. Mami taught hundreds and thousands of people, but not everybody that you see has Mami's touch. They claim, oh, I'm a student of Kalanidhi. And then when I see, I was like, what student of Kalanidhi? I don't even see one little stamp, So not everybody gets it, right? So we, as teachers, we have to, like I always say, it's like in a pile of coal, you're trying to look for that diamond, right? That 1 or 2 diamonds that you may get. Who knows? If you work for 50 years, you may end up with 2 diamonds, So the Nariya, they have to learn to get to the point where they can connect to an Ashtapati or even Kshetriya Padams and bring authenticity to it. So I'm teaching in the hope that one day that switch will go off and you'll be like, oh, I think I got it. I think I know how to do this. So it's the patience varano and kathande irukono nariya kathande. Then one day that spark will happen. The switch will come on. And for me also, it's been so many years of teaching and so many. And then I think in a way it's an advantage when you teach, because you have to peel, right? You have to peel and make them understand. So you also understand it even more than you did before, Sholi kuduka, you also think, oh, ipdi pannalame. And so even pieces that I have been doing for so many years, I've found new ways of interpreting them over a period of time. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Akka. Thank you so much.
So if we are done with questions, Like, thank you so much, ma'am. It was a pleasure hearing you this 1.5 hours. It was amazing. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Absolutely my pleasure. And so nice to see all of you and all my old friends, Badri and Jayanti and Srilata and Manjula and all of them. It's strange, but we're all separated. And yet we're all closer than we were before, because we're able to communicate through this new way. And I hope that this continues, that we don't give it up just because we get out of COVID and we become more physically present, but we're not able to connect, So I hope it continues. And it was truly a pleasure. I love talking about Abhinaya and love. It also gives me a chance, as I said, to think and understand and explain. So I learn a lot as well. So, and thank you to Gopakumar. I've been part of this group for about over a year, I think. Just when COVID hit, he contacted me and said, would you like to be a member of this group? So it's been just about over a year now. And thank you, Lavanya. It was a pleasure being in touch with you. And thank you all. I hope I gave you one little nugget or something to think about.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was such a wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was wonderful. It was delightful.
Thank you, Badri. Have a wonderful rest of the day and good night to you all in India.
Ma'am, on behalf of Indian Classical Dancers Association, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to your excellent session. We had been planning this for almost 6 months. Anyhow, we got this opportunity to have this interaction with you.
Absolutely.
So, thank you very much, and thank you all the participants, and thank you, Lavanya, for hosting this session. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lavanya, if you did you take a picture when the session was on? Did you take a screenshot?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
okay. Just send it to me. Okay. Thank you.
We have the recording also, so that also can be sent.
Perfect. That'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.